And so at the end of the day, I ran down and met with the producers. Now, in this case, the producer was an insurance tycoon from Chicago. And he felt that the country needed to get a shot in the arm to build them up, to improve their salesmanship qualities, and their positive thinking in particular. So it was a positive thinking rally. Well, I run down there, but I introduced myself, and I said, I want to get on this rally. So he turns me over to his second-hand guy, and of course they just laughed at me. We're not, we have people, we probably had 100 people or more who've come to us since we started wanting to get on this rally. No, we're just not interested. We have our team, we feel comfortable with it, and that's it. So I was chopped off. But I refused to take no for an answer. I guess that goes back to my boxing days and my stuttering days. So I decided what I'd do is I want to have an introduction. You always got to have a proper introduction. I didn't have the introduction. We had people. It was so jammed with people that I don't think that you even heard a word I said. So I got a hold of Mr. Bischoff, who was in charge of the Republican Party here in the state of Utah. And I took him to lunch because I want to get on this rally. And could you give me an introduction to Ronald Reagan? Brother. Now, Ronald Reagan at that time was on TV all the time and doing a commercial. And he said, well, he says, I can't guarantee I can get it, but I know who to contact on his staff. That's Michael Deaver. Michael Deaver is his chief of staff. Now, this was just before he became the governor of California. There was an interim period there. But he was famous already because of these ads on television. In those days, you only had three channels. So, it's easy to have watched him. So it comes back that Michael Deaver will have lunch with you. And it was on Wilshire Boulevard, right down towards the end of the street, and or the boulevard, I should say. So I fly on down and introduce myself to Michael Deaver to take him to lunch. And I say, I'd like to get on this program with the positive thinking rallies, and I'm wondering if you could provide an introduction, and I'd like to tell you about myself. He said, well, it's interesting. He said, they've been trying to get Ronald Reagan on this program for quite a few months, so I know all the people well. So during the lunch, I gave him my history. He said, now, I think I can do this for you. But he says, I'm going to do it for a fee. And I don't think I've told this story here before. And how much? $20,000. Now, we're looking at $20,000 then. I don't know what it would be today. I'm convinced what he wanted to do was scare me off. But I figured something told me to do it. So I said, I'll do it. And he set the appointment up for me to meet with the rally producers. Now, what had happened was that two entrepreneurs had bought out the original owner. And these two entrepreneurs lived in Memphis, Tennessee. The rally that they were doing was at Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so that was where I was to meet them. And they'd meet with me following the rally. Now, they had set up headquarters in the Hilton Hotel there, with all the rooms they needed and so on and so on. I remember distinctly how I felt. This rally was at the Oral Roberts University campus in their main auditorium. And it was jam-packed, just filled with people. Just amazing to me. So I was watching these speakers speak. All of a sudden, it wasn't the same as in Salt Lake City. These speakers were bigger. Man, they were really good. And I had just about front row seats, about 10 rows back, so I could really get the impact. And as each one would go through their talks, Doug, how can you ever think of matching those talks? Are you kidding yourself? I mean, let's get real. But I had the appointment, agreed to the money. I had to go through with it. I was stuck, and I knew I was over my head. Well, so afterwards, we meet in the Hilton Hotel. They had a nice big room office complex there that they'd rented out. So I go through my introduction. But how I started off, that I had a series of articles on me. It appeared in Time magazine, for example, had 2 articles on me with a picture, Fortune magazine with the picture. I had the Reader's Digest, had a 6-page article on me. I had a series of articles in the Washington Post editorial page 3. I had a pile of articles. So that was my introduction, was to sling out those articles on me. So they knew I wasn't just some guy off the street wanting to get on this rally. But the owners, or 2 of them, they both said no. Same old story again, always no. Oh, brother, story of my life, hearing the word no. And they explained why, which is extremely logical. When we advertise, we have got to have a name that the people out there that look at these newspapers and that hear these radio ads and TV ads, that resonate with them. All you got to do is just have one name that resonates with, let's say, a certain person, and the curiosity is aroused, and we want to go hear that person. So if you get a stable of 8 speakers during the course of the event, you got eight names there that are well known. And that encourages the sellout, what they called to get butts on seats. That was their terminology. We got to get butts on the seats. And so we got to have names that people recognize. Well, who's ever heard of Doug Snarr, for example? Nobody. It doesn't make a bit of difference that you've had articles on you in all these magazines and everything else. That doesn't mean anything to us. It's still, you're not a recognized name. So you're out. Well, right behind them, and when I got thinking, you know what, I'm paying $20,000 for nothing. When they said, you're out, oh boy. So, I had to go for it. So then there's a guy behind them, and he was quiet. He didn't say anything. His name was Pat Gray. Now, Pat Gray said, I think we should go with Doug Snarr. Now, my argument was this. They might not know my name. I agree with that. You have all celebrities. That's not me. But you have something in your program that is missing. And that missing is that bite in the speech that testifies to people there listening to this rally and all these speakers. Gives them hope that they can change their life and they can run up against an insurmountable obstacle and to prevail over that obstacle. You don't have that. What you've got is speakers that tell stories about other people. And generally, if you're sitting there, you say to yourself, well, maybe so, but it sounds like to me that these stories are somewhat exaggerated. Now, can you tell me that these stories are not exaggerated to to a certain degree, each one of them? And they concurred, well, you got a point there. What I will do is I'll give a testimonial of what it takes to overcome the impossible. That is the ingredient that is missing in this rally. So that when they leave, they feel their purposes have been fulfilled and complete. So that was my argument. Pat Gray said, he's right. I think we need him in this rally. Let's give him one chance. One chance. So then, there's John Handick and Sam Cooper were the two owners. But Pat Gray was the brains. He was the one that was responsible to get the butts on the seats. He created all the advertising. He created the slogans. He did all the buying the advertising for them. He was the brains of the outfit. They agreed. So then they said, Snarr, we'll give you 30 minutes at the rally in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is going to be 3 months from today, or thereabouts. We haven't set the exact date, but it'll be approximately 3 months. I said, no, I won't accept 30 minutes. You give me 1 hour, just like all the other big boys. I want 1 hour. And furthermore, I want to be right behind Paul Harvey. Boy, you're hard to deal with. I said, it'll be worth it. 1 hour behind Paul Harvey. And they finally concurred. Well, Mr. Snarr, let me ask you just one question. How many speeches have you actually given? And I said, well, boys, you got me there. None. I have given some little speeches in our little local church for maybe like 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 at the most, but that's it. They were just shaking their heads, oh my gosh, what are we getting ourselves into? We've agreed to let him have an hour, and now he's never even... Do you have your speech written by any chance? No. I've got to write it yet. And so they were just, oh, this is impossible. I don't know how we ever get in this jam. I can just, their minds are going like that. Pat Gray just sat back there. There's something about him. He got to me. This guy was deep water. He was a man of real substance. But he understood the sophistries of advertising, and he could guess the people. And he was gifted at putting the butts on the seats, very, very much so. Now, to later describe him, our Linkletter told me, I've never, ever had an agent in my life. But if I were to have one person to be my agent, I'd choose Pat Gray of Kansas City. He's the smartest of them all.